manner of conducting meetings. To tonight's meeting participants, as the presiding officer, I request that each member or designated staff member request that they be recognized by me before speaking. I will do my best to quickly recognize and call upon you. All participants shall use the mute function and only unmute yourself when you seek to be recognized to speak and while you are speaking. Please remember that this meeting is being broadcast to the public, and therefore we request that you eliminate any background distractions you may have at your location. Prior to council taking final action on any agenda item, applicants or members of the public who are present in the public access area will be recognized to address the council. Applicants and members of the public who have pre-registered to address the specific agenda item through communications media technology will be recognized to address the council, and email or written statements that have been timely submitted will be read into the record. So now I'm going to call this meeting to order. Okay, so tonight we have David Merced Cruz from the Family Life Church that's going to provide the invocation, and following that we will remain standing for the pledge.
Good evening, everyone. Will you please bow your head with me as I pray? To dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many abundant blessings. Thank you for the ability to be involved in this work. In the scripture, it says that today is the day that you have made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. So today, Father, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, for the people of St. Cloud, and for this assembled council. I'm asking that you will graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times and city, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would be pleasing to you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of St. Cloud. It is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen and amen.
Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please do the roll call.
Mayor Blackwell, Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Here.
Councilmember Cooper.
Here.
Councilmember Askew.
Here.
Councilmember Trace.
Here.
Thank you. Our next section is presentations, and there are no presentations at this time. So next we move to the Citizens Forum. Any person who desires to comment on any item not on this agenda is provided this opportunity to address the City Council. Each person is requested to complete a sign-in form to be provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as practical thereafter. The person addresses the council. Madam Clerk, are there any slips requesting to speak?
Deputy Mayor, I have nothing, no slips, and I have no one in the chambers either.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The next portion of tonight's meeting is the consent agenda, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, now is the opportunity for you to do so. Additionally, if staff or members of City Council wish to speak on a consent item, they have the same opportunity. I'm going to ask if any of the council members have any comments or want to pull any items for discussion. Mr. Trace.
On item I, that's the Cypress Lake Wellfield item. I just want to make sure we continue to have conversations every once in a while about how that project's going, and because we're going to have a lot of funding requirements coming up in the next couple of years. So I just want to make sure we keep that in mind. And then on item N, I just want to congratulate our police agency on the COPS grant. It's a great thing. That's it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from council? I wanted to also make a comment on item number I as well, and that goes back to the issue I think we're finally getting some traction on, is to have the conversation about the limits of the city and the limits of the water service area. All that feeds into these decisions. So just kind of let's keep that ball rolling. All right.
Mr. Cooper has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. I agree with you 100%, Lynette. I think it's time that we need to make a decision how far we're going to go and how large the city needs to go. I would like to have that pulled until we get that changed. So I'd like to vote on that one by it separately. If you can bring out everything else but that, I'd like to vote on that separately.
Sure. All right. So, Madam Clerk, are there any, is there anyone that wants to speak on these items that are either in the audience or turned in a note to speak?
I do not have anyone in the audience and no one turned in a note to speak.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion then on the consent agenda items A through P, taking out item number I for a separate vote.
I make a motion to
water.
I'm sorry?
motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second? That Councilmember Trace?
Chuck's fine.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to tell. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Askew, a second by Councilmember Cooper. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askew,
Aye.
Councilmember Trace,
Aye.
Councilmember Cooper,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, do I need to ask for public comment separately on item number I?
No, ma'am. I think you already asked if there was anyone in the public wanted to address any of the consent items.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on item number I of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
And
Second.
Second for Mr. Trace. So a motion to approve for Mr. Askew, a second for Mr. Trace. Is there any conversation that you would like to have, Mr. Cooper, before we take the vote?
No, ma'am, I'm ready to take a vote.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Trace,
Aye.
Councilmember Cooper,
Nay.
Councilmember Askew,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1.
All right, the next section is going to be section 8, which is the public hearings. Madam Clerk, please read the next item.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2019-45. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, closing, vacating, and abandoning portions of utility easement located on a property located east of LaSalle Avenue, west of Packard Avenue, north of Pine Tree Drive, specifically described in the body of this ordinance, providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date.
Madam Chairman, this is Andre Anderson. May I be recognized?
Yes.
Thank you. This item is the, good afternoon. My name is Andre Anderson, the Community Development Director. This is the Gramercy Farms Phase 9 request for abandonment of easement, ordinance 2019-45. This item came before you on a few occasions. And the background for this item is that this is an OEC easement located between LaSalle Avenue and Packard Avenue on the north of Pine Tree Drive. and there is an easement for power poles, and there was no objection from OUC to the abandonment of the easement. It went to DRC review on October 24th, 2019. There were no letters of objection and no comments or conditions at that time. There were, however, items that were raised. One was to clean the ditch, and one was to remove a pipe. At the meeting, the applicant proffered to address those items. This is consistent with strategic plan goal for infrastructure. The council action at that time, back in October, was to continue to November, and it was raised and seconded by Deputy Mayor Thien and Councilmember Cooper. The outside issues that were identified at that time, as I said, was to clean the ditch and also remove a pipe, which had some issues with respect to drainage. It came back to the November 24th City Council meeting, and it was approved on first reading by Councilmember Trace and Askew making the motion in second. The vote was 3-0 with Councilmember Cooper voting nay. Then it came back in January, and again, it was continued to June meeting. At the June meeting, it was discussed and was raised and continued by Deputy Mayor Matheny and Trace. And now it came back to the following meeting, and we then learned that the outstanding items were addressed, one of which was to remove the pipe, and we also confirmed visually that it was removed, and we also Public Works confirmed by looking at the updated permit with South Florida Water Management District on their website, and there was a permit modification that was confirmed, so there is at this time no outstanding issues related to this item. The DRC staff recommends approval and asks that the City Council approve Ordinance 2019-45 for the abandonment of easement for Gramercy Farms Phase 9. Have to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andre. Council, do you want to have any discussion on this item? I don't see any hands. Madam Clerk, is there anyone requesting to speak on this item?
I do have a Stephen McCon registered for the Zoom meeting to speak on that as the applicant.
Okay.
Hi, this is Kathy. I do not see Stephen in the attendees anymore. He was there earlier, but he seems to have dropped off.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on public hearing item number 1.
Motion to approve ordinance 2019-45.
Second.
So a motion to approve by Councilmember Trace, a second by Councilmember Askew. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cooper,
Nay.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny,
They did everything we asked. Aye.
motion carries 3-1.
Madam Clerk, please read the next item.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2020-13. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida to annex into the City of St. Cloud approximately 9.5 acres identified as Cordoba, located west of Hickory Tree Road, south of Alligator Lake Road, north of Pine Tree Drive, in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Chapter 171.044 Florida statutes.
Deputy Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
May I ask the clerk to also read the next item because it's related?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2020-14. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a zoning district of R1B, single-family dwelling, compatible with low-density residential future land use designation for approximately 9.5 acres located west of Hickory Tree Road, south of Alligator Lake Road, north of Pine Tree Drive, providing for entering the designation of the official zoning map, following the Planning Commission's recommendations, and proof of publication, severability, conflicts, and effective date.
Thank you. Andre Anderson, Community Development Director. This is a voluntary annexation of approximately 9.5 acres, which makes it a small scale amendment. And this is under ordinance 2020-13. It is contiguous to the city limits and meet the criteria under section 171.044 Florida statutes for being reasonably compact and contiguous to the city limits. And we did receive signed petitions for all the property owners. Again, this is the final public hearing. It's adjacent to the city limits and abuts on the eastern property boundary. The existing future land use is low density residential in the county, and existing zoning is AC in the county. It's compatible with the surrounding area, and there are no adverse impacts to facility and services at this time. It's consistent with the strategic plan goal for growth management. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 2020-13, and the Planning Commission at their meeting on June 16, 2020, also recommends approval of ordinance 2020-13 based on the 16 findings of our Land Development Code. We recommend approval of ordinance and approval and adoption of ordinance 2020-13. Related to this is the, by the way, on the annexation item, it's also a combination of an annexation as well as an automatic future land use designation of low density residential. On the zoning map amendment, which is ordinance 2020-14, which is for the same property, 9.5 acres, adjacent to the city limits. The appropriate zoning for this property that was requested is R1B, which requires a minimum of 62.5-foot wide lots. It's compatible with the surrounding area, and there are no adverse impacts to city facilities at this time. Again, it's consistent with the growth management strategic plan goal. And DRC and staff recommends approval of ordinance 2020-14. The Planning Commission at their meeting in June also recommended approval of ordinance 2020-14 based on the 16 findings of the Land Development Code, and asked that the City Council also approve ordinance 2020-14, which is the final adoption hearing. I'm happy to answer the questions.
Are there any questions or comments by our council members on item number 2 of the public hearings? No? I have a comment, same one I made the first time this came through, is just my concern about annexation, city limit size, water service area, same comments I made the first time this came through. Madam Clerk, are there any, have any slips been turned in to comment on this item?
I have no slips on this item, Deputy Mayor. And no one's registered also.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 2020-13.
Second.
So I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Trace, a second by Councilmember Cooper. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cooper?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Does council have any comment or discussion you want to have on item number 3 of public hearings? Madam Clerk, is there anyone registered to speak on this item?
Deputy Mayor, I have no one on that item either.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to, second.
Was that Councilmember Askew, a second by Councilmember Trace?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Councilmember Cooper?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
So items 4, 5, and 6, the applicant has requested to move these to the next meeting on August 13th. So we won't be reading these into the record or voting on them.
I thought we still had to vote to move them
We don't.
to the next meeting. Oh, okay.
Because they're, Mr. Trace, because they're first readings and introduction, they haven't been formally advertised as of yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's why you don't have to read.
What was that date again?
August 13th.
Understood. Thank you.
Also, I would like to just make a comment. This is the same application that we've had on our agenda now, I mean, 6 times maybe. And they, the last time it came up, I had said, this is getting a little ridiculous, and that, you know, we pushed it out, and then here they're doing it again. I think we need to maybe look at our procedures to see if there's a loophole that, you know, maybe people can't just, I just know it's a lot of work for staff to prepare this over and over and over again, and then they keep pulling it. Like, is there a way to put kind of a limit on the number of times that you can bring an application and pull it?
Well, and if I may, Madam Deputy Mayor, in some instances, the council has complete control over that. When the request to either move it or table it is really at the complete behest of the applicant. This case is a little different for tonight because one of the reasons they're asking to move it is because there's only 4 council members present. And so you are absolutely right. There isn't a policy in place, but the council always has the ability to listen to a request from an applicant to table or continue the matter and then essentially deny it based on whatever the reasons are, if the reasons aren't acceptable to the council.
Okay. Okay, our next section is council action. Madam Clerk, please read the next item.
Resolution number 2020-175R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, approving a water and wastewater service agreement for Narcoossee SLP LLC, a commercial development named Benton House of Narcoossee, located in the unincorporated areas of Osceola County on the west side of Narcoossee Road, north side of Deerfield Street, south of Searles Road, east of Zuni Road, authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement and providing an effective date.
Mr. Anderson, did you want to come up and discuss this item?
This is,
Deputy Mayor, this is not my item. This is the Environment Utilities Director's item, Ms. Marjorie Craig. And I think she may be muted. That's why you're not hearing her.
My apologies, Ms. Craig.
Marjorie. She's on mute. Council, this is a water wastewater agreement for Narcoossee SLP LLC, which is a commercial development named Benton House. It's on Narcoossee Road. It's near Searles and Zuni. And this is authorizing the city manager to execute that agreement.
Okay, council, do you have any questions or comments on this item? Hearing or seeing none. Madam Clerk, is there anyone who would like to speak on this item?
I do have 2 registered. I have a Dane Cates that has registered to fill out as an in-person, but we have no one present for that. And then also I have registered for the Zoom meeting is Chadwick Moorhead as an applicant, if there's any questions.
Okay, Mr. Moorhead, do you have anything you want to say?
Nothing to say, just answer any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, great. I'll entertain a motion by council.
Could I ask you a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you move.
I didn't raise my hand.
Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. What size lots are these going to be?
This is an assisted living facility.
Assistance. Okay, not a problem. Thank you, ma'am.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Askew, a second by Councilmember Trace. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Councilmember Cooper.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, we're now down to the comments section. City Attorney, do you have any items you'd like to discuss?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to briefly talk about two items. The first is just to make the city council aware of a new act that was adopted by the legislature and is now took effect on July 1st. Essentially, the legislature has preempted cities and counties in the state from prohibiting the operation of mobile food vendors, essentially food trucks. Currently the city code that limits and restricts the ability for mobile food vendors to operate within the city. So we are, by this statutory language that was adopted as part of a bill related to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, basically says that the city cannot prohibit mobile food home vehicles from dispensing within the city limits. So staff is taking a close look at it to see what available options there are for the city to either to continue to manage these uses, but we're going to have to work on the city code and make some minor changes to it to avoid that, since we've now been preempted by the state. So before I move on to my other item, I'd ask if there's any questions on that right now. Mr. Trace.
Can you send that language to us, please? And then we can't prohibit, but can we put site-specific requirements on it? Because safety-wise, just where people walk, and it's just sometimes they just literally pop on the side of the road, and it's busy roads with kids.
Well, here's our initial thought on that, and that's a very good question. We do not think that this prohibits the city from limiting these mobile food vendors as they exist on public property or on public streets. We think it's designed to only address the operation of mobile food vendors on private property. So we still believe the city will have an ability to regulate them. They can't just stop in the street and on the right of way and deal with it. That would be the first thing. And then the rest of it, because the language in the statute does deal with permitting and review, we're going to have to take a close look at what ability the city has to further regulate these. I think Mr. Sturgeon had something too.
Deputy Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Manzares, do we have right of entry from the Fire Marshal's office to do the safety inspections based on this new law?
That's one of the big issues. We are unsure about that as of right now. This sort of came up, frankly, Mr. Trace has asked me to send him the bill. I will send you the entire bill. It's 103 pages.
Light reading.
I will also carve out the section that related to food vendors. It's just a way of understanding the food vendor change shows up on line 2,292 of the bill. So you have to read through 2,291 lines before you get to that one. But in any event, to get back to Mr. Sturgeon's point, it's our understanding that the Fire Marshal Association of the State of Florida is looking at this. Many cities like St. Cloud require fire inspections for these vehicles. The law prohibits basically requiring a permit of any kind by the local government, and we're just going to have to start looking at it a little closer. So we wanted you to be aware of it in case you started to see some of these mobile vendors popping up. But we're going to try to look and see what we can do to continue to protect the public health, safety, and welfare within the limits of the statute.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And I just had one other item. As of August 1st, the governor's executive order that allows for communication media technology to be used for these meetings expires. Our understanding is we have not heard anything from the governor's office as to whether that's going to be extended. Many folks are trying to get an answer to that question, and the answer has not come as of yet. So we just want to give you another heads up that your next council meeting may be more along the lines of traditional council meetings, because the governor has not extended that executive order. So we'll keep you apprised of that. If we hear something, of course, you'll be among the first to know. That's all I have, Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Dan, does that affect our budget workshop on the 3rd? Advertising and whatnot?
We may have to give an alternative advertising for that. And I think we probably should think about that, but Mr. Sturgeon and I can talk about that tomorrow and make sure that we got, that's a good point, Mr. Trace. Thank you for bringing that up.
City Manager, do you have any items?
I have nothing, Deputy Mayor.
Councilmember Cooper, do you have anything you'd like to discuss?
No, ma'am, I'm fine. Thank you.
Councilmember Trace.
Yes. So you brought up twice tonight, but the workshop on city size. I just want to make sure we get that in our upcoming workshop, long range planning. I think we have stuff set up in October, but we might have some openings before that.
Great. Is that it?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Askew.
I have nothing, Deputy Mayor. Thank you so much.
Okay, I have one item actually. When I had my agenda review this week, I was talking with the city manager about the renovations to the council chambers and the security upgrades and things that we've been discussing for quite some time, and was just inquiring again about what the schedule was for that. And the city manager brought up a really good point, which was, you know, now would be a great time to be doing that since we're not really in the council chambers as much. So I wanted to see if the other council members agreed with giving direction to the city manager to go back, they already have the plans done. They need to do a little bit of tweakage to the plans because I think there's too many seats up at the dais and things like that. But he would wrap the plans up, bring them back to us with a budget. And we have some projects that have been delayed. And we also have some contingency that we could use to cover the expenses. But I thought, you know, it might be a great time to move that forward since we're not in the council chambers as much right now, and just see if you guys agree with giving that direction to the city manager. I see me and Dave, Mr. Askew. Oh, we got all four. City manager, right. Do you need any other direction?
No, we're clear. Thank you.
Okay, great. So now we come to the information section and the report section. On Monday, August 3rd, the City Council Budget Workshop at 6 p.m. will be virtual, pending the review of the governor's ordinance, as Mr. Trace brought up. On Tuesday, August 4th, the City Council Budget Workshop will be at 6 p.m. virtual. Again, possibly that might change. Thursday, August 6th, the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting will be at 6:30, and that will be virtual, possibly. And finally, Thursday, August 13th, is a City Council meeting at 6:30, which right now is scheduled to be virtual. Please refer to the warrant list number 15. And unless there's any other comments.
Deputy Mayor Matheny, one more. Yes. We had a DSD meeting recently that was canceled. Is that going to be rescheduled here soon? I think we have some contracts that we're getting close to closing timeline.
I think Mr. Sturgeon said yes, that's the plan.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. May I be recognized?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yes, we will be rescheduling those. We have some contracts. Dan and I discussed that the other day. Probably mid-August is what we're looking at on the calendar.
Okay, great. If I don't have any objections, I'm going to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.